You know what every science fiction story needs? Lightsabers. You know what We Are Legion, We Are Bob has? Lightsabers. That's right.
That's right. Welcome back to the 800s. I'm Alan, and this is my lovely co-host Adam. Tonight we're going to be talking about We Are Bob, or We Are Legion, We Are Bob, by Dennis E. Taylor. Whoop, I've got the name in the description wrong. I'm fixing it now. Save. And there we go. So,
I get that. I get the We Are Bob part backwards every
yeah,
time I
yeah,
describe what book this is.
yeah, same. Well, because the common saying is like, "We are many, we are legion," or whatever, So,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, we're gonna be talking about this very nerdy book tonight. Um, let's see here. I don't usually do Alex's side of things, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, let's talk about some plugs real quick. YouTube.com. We post all of our videos on YouTube. You should check it out. The link should be below your screen now. I'll go ahead and leave comments on those videos if you like what you see. If you have any questions about past books or other videos that we post, go ahead and leave those and we'll get back to you. Audible.com, or sorry, Audible, dmstable.com/audible. um, that's a primary way I like to enjoy the books that we do is through an audiobook format, and I purchase most of them from Audible. If you'd like to join in on that fad, go ahead and head over to dmstable.com/audible.
Audiobooks are
Also, if
totally
you
fad.
joined us, yeah, if you joined us for our pre-show, you heard some music. That was Fearless First by Incompetech. Incompetech has a lot of super cool scores. You should check them out. Go to incompetech.filmmusic.io to hear more. And how we pay for everything that we do is through Patreon and Etsy. Patreon is our primary way for you guys to say, hey, we like what you do. We want to support you and show our love and buy you a beer. So head over to Patreon and join us. Any tier on Patreon gets you the ability to vote on books, which if I believe it's not quite too late, but right now the book vote is open to anyone. So if you head over to Patreon, you don't even have to subscribe now. You can vote for the next book.
Yep,
I hope that's still true.
it is still true. It is true until about 9:15 tonight.
And if you like nerd culture objects 3D printed, you should check out our Etsy page. That's dmstable.com/Etsy. Some pretty cool things that you can purchase and will get sent right on over to you,
So,
including, as Alan is pointing out behind him, the dice silhouettes on his wall there. That's a purchasable item from DM's Table's Etsy page. So go check it out. If you would like to know more about the DM's Table and other projects we do, head over to dmstable.com. And also, you can follow us on our socials. We have a Facebook and Twitter page. On Facebook, we're at the DM's Table, and Twitter, we are at DM's Table. So check us out. And of course, if you love what we do and want to chat with us on the daily, you could always join our Discord. And if you would like the link to that Discord, hit us up on our socials, and we will share that link with you. I think that's a bit. That's probably it for plugs. Tripping over my words a little bit.
all the plugs.
Alan, why don't you tell us? Yeah,
Yeah,
why
all the
don't you tell us
plugs
about what book we're talking about?
out of the way. Tonight we're going to be talking about, like I said earlier, We Are Legion, We Are Bob, by Dennis E. Taylor. This is a fantastically nerdy sci-fi book that follows a uh, a layman, I would say, a very average person who falls into a lot of money and decides to freeze his head in case he dies. And just so happens that's what happens. He
Like the next day.
the next day. From there, he's turned into a artificial intelligence or a replicant, and humanity kind of spirals from there. He's shot out into the space, and this is the meat of the story. Welcome, Storm Reed. Always fun to have you in chat. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah.
If this is your first time joining us tonight, I'll give you a quick rundown of how our Twitch show here works. Essentially, we are a community-driven community-driven conversation show. So, Alan or I will pose a topic or question to discuss. That'll give you guys the opportunity to type your message in chat. While you're doing that, Alan and I will give our viewpoint on the topic or question. And if you guys have anything that you would like to pose as a question or topic, feel free to throw it into chat at any time. And when we're done with our current topic, we'll throw it up for everyone to discuss, and we'll give our own viewpoint on there. So the way that the show is most entertaining and most fun is with viewer participation. So don't be afraid to throw out your comments or questions in the chat, and feel free to share your opinions about what we're talking about as well.
Absolutely. And as always, this show is not meant for kids. Hide them away because we talk about things that are adult topics. The books we read are, I want to say mainly adult books, but we've read a lot of YA lately. Either way,
Yeah.
we are blue. We do not. We try not to sugarcoat things, and we try not to be too offensive. And with that, we foster a very accepting community. So we're not going to put up with people who are being jerks and stuff like that. So, in sum, be nice or fuck off. And with that, let's get it started.
Yeah. First impressions. What were your first impressions upon starting this book? What did you think of the introduction? How did it make you feel? Were you eager to continue?
Yeah, so like all of our books, I don't read into them at all. I try not to even like look at the like the book cover. I don't look up like the synopsis or whatever. Like all the books I like to read, I don't read the back of the book. I I don't know why, but anyways, so going into this blind, one of the things that I heard was this is a comedic book. It was very funny. And so I went in thinking, like, this is going to be a comedy. And it wasn't that. It was funny, but it wasn't a comedy. It was I was struck very early on with this like nerdy alt earth real pseudo realistic science stuff, and I enjoyed it. This book was very similar to like the Jack Campbell books that I've read in the past with like The Lost Fleet. So I really enjoyed getting back to that style. I enjoyed uh, Dennis's take on like space exploration and where humans are like moving towards. It was a really fun world to explore for me at the start, for sure. How about you?
I'd have to agree. it kind of sets a fast-paced tone like right off the bat. Um, it's a day like we were joking about earlier. Day one of agreeing to freeze his head, he dies right away. That kind of gave me the idea that this book was going to be one of those. Let's keep it flowing. Let's not dwell on anything too much. And I was excited to see how far out and what all it would cover, considering that all super abrupt introduction to the world and then transition to what was it, like 150 years later or something.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't get a lot of sci-fi books in my library, so
Really?
it's always very refreshing when one comes across, because it's
I've
not fantasy,
I've got books for you, my man. Uh, we'll talk later. We'll talk later. Okay. Okay. I think we're gonna have to add some more sci-fi to our 800s list. What does chat think of that? Um, it looks like Storm Reed loved the concept. Really enjoyed the starting of it and enjoyed the Homer character. I did too. I did too.
Yeah.
Yes, him coming back as a replicant was surprising to me. I found it funny because, as the writer pointed out as well, like some very rich people have put their heads in a bucket and then they come out and they turn out to be like street sweepers for eternity, you know, or like mining robots, you know.
Well,
Um,
apparently not that long because the world goes boom.
right. Yeah, and yeah, I love that like concept. It was a really interesting concept to me, and I'm sure we're gonna dig into it further. Um, you know what? Why don't we just kind of start there, actually? What did you think about the replicant technology and the learning process that Bob had to go through?
Yeah, it was obviously we don't spend a ton of time on Bob learning how to be a replicant. He just kind of picks it up, and then the world's about to go to shit, so he gets launched. um I enjoyed the idea that how would a human consciousness in robot form interact with the world. And I liked the idea that he wasn't limited to just one form. He was a central hub where he could reach out and control each of these little devices however he saw fit. And I found it kind of interesting that he doesn't like he really drew a line between him being himself and controlling the like the little bots that he could send out to repair stuff or send to auto factories to set things up. He always made it very clear, I'm me, I'm just telling them what to do. Where you could have taken it the other way and say, I'm me, also I can move my focus to this robot here, and that robot is now an extension of me.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting how that line was drawn, where he felt more comfortable imagining a virtual reality environment as his own self, and then as an extension he could control things but they weren't him.
Yeah, that like gestalt characteristic of being a central intelligence with many puppets and being um, close to omnipresent through like many sensors. Yeah, that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. That was it. What I found really interesting was that the writer delved into how that can break people's minds. Like the fact that people had an adjustment period of like, I'm not a human anymore. Will you go crazy at that point? And then I can do things that I never been able to do, like see perspectives that I've never been able to see, and it's not my expected outcome. Like him using the robot to like look at the the speakers that was his voice, right? Do they go crazy in that spot? And then later on the whole like replicating their intelligence and like how does one grapple with that? So like I thought it was a great way for the writer to give the character something to continuously overcome and grapple with like internally, because I think if they didn't have that, this book would have been a lot more boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there obviously there's a lot of like the universe versus the person in this book, but I think the I think what like really details and sets things off is the touches of the person versus themselves and like trying to overcome and stay sane.
Yeah. I especially like how Storm kind of mentioned it, but each version is a slightly different part of his personality.
Yeah, quantum
Um,
drift.
yeah, some of his personalities saw the best way to stay sane was to continue to interact with um, humans or Deltans later in the book. But other perspectives were like, no, I just want to separate, their ephemerals, and I don't want to deal with them anymore.
Hmm.
I'm my own thing. Kind of interesting that manifested early on in his quantum drift.
Hmm. Yeah, like and some of them would pair. Like they would be like tight pairs, like Goku and is it Calvin? Is it Calvin and Goku, or was it maybe Hobbs and Goku? They were
Lose track.
yeah, they were like twin AIs, and they decided to like go together to I think Alpha Centauri, and yeah, I thought that was really interesting to introduce more characters and promote a cast of characters as just being slices of the main character. It was also very helpful that they took on their own names. So, and how the writer did the naming was very intuitive so that you knew kind of the temperament of the of that person. So you didn't have to like remember necessarily like who this person is and like their backstory. You just knew that like Riker was number two and he was very like shoo, and Homer was very laid back and a little manipulative and stuff like that, and so knowing those references, you could draw on those references to understand what character is like speaking.
Sounds like Storm agrees with you there.
Yeah, I did super enjoy all of the thorough like nerd dropping. Like there was so many like references and nods and stuff. Stargate got a nod. I haven't seen a Stargate nod in a very long time, so I was pleasantly pleased about that. I think Stargate. I feel that there's Star Wars and Star Trek, and everybody talks about those, but hardly anybody talks about Stargate. And it's like the the third child that just plays in the corner by itself as the other two kids fight. And you know what I mean? So like it was very cool to get a Stargate nod here.
This book had a Stargate-esque feel to it, I think, with
Yeah.
the different alien races that they find,
Hmm.
and the fact that they find life on like every third planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh, so your turn for a question. Hit me.
Yeah, so this is kind of late game, but some something that I thought was very unique about this story was, and I hope it happened in this book. I'm pretty sure it happened in this book.
Listen, listen. If you need
uh
to know where the book ends, the Deltons, uh, the well, you know what?
it ends with humans getting to
Yeah, yeah. They get
the
to the
place.
Vulcan planets. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna
So
say,
the
yeah.
Homer's demise,
Oh yeah.
does that happen in this book?
Nope.
Okay. Shoot. I'm
Spoilers.
sure that happened in book one.
At least I don't think it did.
Dang it.
I don't remember.
Let's talk about let's talk about Bob and his godhood.
Yeah,
Do you
let's
think
go with that.
Bob did the right thing becoming the uh, technological advancer of the Deltan society?
No, I don't. I think, um, I think to some degree, like Bob needed it, and so it was very self-serving for Bob to do this. But I think I forget who his cohort was or the his companion uh, around the Delton planet was. But I think even they got like kind of sick of it, and they're like, we're gonna peace out after like a couple hundred years. We're done. We're done with this. And it didn't. I don't know. It was. It felt like he needed it, but he also really like he really progressed a lot of stuff, and I think he downplayed a lot of like how big of the events were that he caused. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, um, I thought it was interesting. I think there's always going to be that point where Bob would have interfered if he had had more of hymns there. Maybe they would have been like, "Yo,
yeah,
don't interfere, don't do it. You know it's the wrong thing to do."
yeah. I
I personally think he should have left it alone, and if they die, then that really sucks. But
yeah, but then the gorilla or the gorilloids or whatever they would take over, right? Like
yeah,
this is natural selection. Now I did enjoy the Delton parts because I felt like the author here was using the Deltons as a foreshadow or as a device to show like that we really haven't progressed anywhere. And so like
yeah,
every time he'd do like a Delton thing, the next thing would be an Earth thing, and that Earth thing would be like an echo of what he did on Delta. And so he would. I'm trying to think of a specific example, uh, but it was very like okay, the Delton like elders would like commiserate or like talk or whatever. And then we go to Earth and it would just be a whole thing about how they would argue about what they're going to do in this dangerous situation or something like that. Like that's a poor example, but it's certainly there. There is I think it was very specifically done. Which was cool. And I think Bob in both places, so Bob and Riker are the meddling ones, and they're meddling on different levels, but they're still meddling and assisting their chosen species in a way to survive.
Yeah,
So like,
that's a
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, that's a good point. Is um, Riker could have just as easily been hands off and
Right.
let the humans go.
Yep. Yep. So it's tough, like if you put it in that perspective of like, oh man, he was too nice to those Deltans. We needed to let them learn. But then you do the dark mirror of Earth, and it's like those humans, they're too dumb. They can't figure it out. They need to get off this planet, and they're too dumb. A faction of them is like, we had a good run. We're we're done. You know,
We're done.
like like come on. So like yeah, it's tough because the human of me is like, no, 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 you have to save those people. But then looking at the Deltans, it's much more like distanced. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely, Storm. Yeah, him wanting to speed up the evolution and stuff like that, and being patient at the beginning. I I think that certainly is I don't know, the kind of, I wouldn't say a downfall, but that is certainly the kind of negative influence that I think he was having. I think it was really cool, going back quickly to the technology, that the Bobs were able to adjust their frame rates, which
yeah,
adjusted their perspective, which was really cool. I thought that was a great way to like time travel.
I did like how they were like, I'm bored. I'm gonna slow my frame rate
Way
way
down. Yeah, and then
down.
and then the stars are just going by like, whoa. Yeah.
Look how fast I can go. I just went 15 light years and it felt like a day. How long was it? 15
That's
years.
right. That's right. Uh,
uh,
so
Different kind of cryo sleep.
yeah. So the book came out in 2016. Um and I want to get into how you felt the like political progression and the evolution of Earth went, because not getting political in our real terms, but understanding like what was going on for that writer at that time, and then they drew on that and extrapolated it. What were your thoughts about like the consolidation and the consolidation of Earth and its like political parties and stuff like that?
It's definitely an interesting, call it a hypothesis about how the future could go. Uh, Especially my especially interested take on it was that Brazil would be this big power that would screw everyone over. That kind of came out of left field. I mean, considering our current political climate, I feel like
Hmm.
Brazil isn't really at the uh, cares about interfering with the rest of the world as much as, say, the U.S., China, Russia. Those big players there. So it's interesting to see, like, oh yeah, the U.S. or Faith is a big player, and then there's Brazil and a couple other ones, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see how quickly the tone of this like hyper aggressive political system that like starts in the U.S. It feels like it starts to like move outward, right? as the what's his face is explaining how the history shaped out. And it was crazy to me, like you were saying, like Brazil just out of nowhere is this massive superpower, because I don't think of Brazil as like a place where I've got superpowers like on the tip of my tongue, right? Like I
Yeah.
South America, Brazil, in that area of Brazil, I don't think of superpowers. But it makes sense because those are like very large swaths of like um vegetation and stuff like that. Like especially if you're talking about global warming and stuff like that. Um, Brazil, the Brazil area, that's going to be like, I don't know. It's going to be huge because when you get, because I assume Brazil was like the lower half of Mexico to the all the way down past Argentina. You know what I mean? Like from the lower half of Mexico to the bottom half of South America, or the bottom of South America. I assume that's what the Brazilian Empire was. And so like when you get to that bottom section, I think it's um I can't remember the country down near the bottom tip of South America. But once you get down there, the
Chile,
climate's,
Argentina.
yeah, Argentina. I'm pretty sure it is. Um, Once you get down there, the climate is actually very similar to our climate, which is funny because we think like you go down further and it gets hotter, but there is that point of like you don't get hotter anymore, you start getting colder again. And so like,
Yeah.
it makes sense for them to become a superpower. It just it was surprising. I enjoyed watching him like spin things out, right? Like these continual escalations and like posturings of these superpowers lead into this massive global war, which I personally feel like is not unlike the things that happen in our world. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting to see my viewpoints in somebody else's words. So, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely find we kind of get the impression that the replicants leaving Earth is what set off the nuclear escalation and
Yeah.
destruction of Earth. It's kind of interesting that it's like um, now that colonization is potentially a possibility, uh, all hands are off. So you're gonna die.
Yeah. Well, so like I believe it was the space race, and instead of being competitive like sportsmen's, they were like children scrambling for candy. You know what I mean? So like I believe what was happening was like Brazil like nuked this space station where the launch was happening, and that was because they didn't want Faith to get out into the universe before them, or to be a competitor out there. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
became this like, well, if you're gonna nuke my space station, you've been talking a lot of trash. Put up or shut up. I'm gonna nuke you. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Let's start over to
yeah,
Storm's
he's got
comment.
so many questions. We need to start digging into these.
We kind of talked about the Delton thing, but I definitely want to talk about the how does Bob develop the blaster as a defender against advanced weapons? If I could rephrase that a little bit, Bob continuously talks about not liking weapons throughout the
Mm,
book, but then does eventually develop his own way to destroy, shall I say.
Yeah.
What did you think of Bob's weaponry and his advances in that area?
I think Bob was shown to be the right person for the job that he was put in. And with that comes the aversion to weaponry, and that a lot of his weaponry came from the defensive escalations. Um, who was the Brazilian that attacked him early on? I think it was like uh, Miss.
I forget his name.
I think it's like not Mistros. That's not it. But anyways, like yeah, you know what I'm saying. I think that he needed to develop them out of a necessity, and he had his
Medeiros.
what is it?
Sorry, Medeiros.
Medeiros. I was close. Um, yeah. So I think he developed them out of necessity, right? Like the busters and the plasma cannons that were clearly from Halo, and they didn't give a nod to it. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I mean, I think that he developed them defensively, and yeah, he doesn't rely on nukes. Or are you talking about
Medeiros.
Medeiros? Medeiros relied on nukes for sure. Yes. Yep. And yeah, I think because of that escalation, that's why Bob had to divert some of his intelligences to that problem. And yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Speaking of nukes, I found it interesting that, when the Bob Medeiros conflict first comes up, Medeiros is like, well, I'm just going to make nukes. I'm
Yeah.
going to make nukes and I'm going to nuke you. And Bob's like, I'm going to make these things that are going to destroy, they're essentially cannonballs, and I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
They're smart cannonballs for space.
Yeah.
Because all I got to do is poke you in the right spot and you're done.
Yeah. He has an engineer's mindset, which was really cool to read this whole okay, we're not going to solve it necessarily with fists. We're going to solve a problem creatively. And so he set up that trap and then, lured Medeiros into that trap and executed it. Um yeah.
I especially liked the double up buster style.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you got my buster. Ah, there was a second one.
Yeah. Yep. How does Bob develop? Oh, we just did that one. Bob comes up with the new attack strategy, but Medeiros develops the duplicates. Yeah. Yep. And then Medeiros figuring out the cloaking. That was very. I think that was a very exciting part of the book for me. Was during the Bob Medeiros conflict, the second one. I guess
Yeah.
the second one. You know what I'm talking about. The war between the
Yeah.
two. Medeiros really didn't put any effort into cloning himself and put a ton of effort into building nukes, which was really interesting. And Bob put a lot of time into developing soldiers and hunting Medeiros. So that was that was pretty cool. It was cool to see that. So I wish they would have nodded to Halo. I don't know if Dennis couldn't because of he couldn't get the okay to do it. But I mean the plasma cannon with a magnetic envelope around it, that is the plasma cannon from Halo. That's what the Covenant use. And he would have been right in that strike zone of people who played Halo. So
Yeah, it does kind of make you wonder if he just couldn't. Just
Yeah.
couldn't say it for copyright reasons.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about Bob coming up on Intelligent Life? Like not the Daltons, but the one where the ants or whatever they would like activate when they hit them with Sodar. What did you think about that?
Others.
What's that?
I the others.
The others?
I'm not sure if it's
Nope,
if he calls them that
not yet.
right away, but yeah, it's so obviously that's a society that beat humans to the global or the galactic expansion point, and I think it's inevitable to become kind of a resource hog as soon as you think that you're the only one out there. It's interesting to consider whether or not if you are this super space power, is it your right to resource hog from systems with other life on it is an interesting topic of conversation because I mean we did it here, right? We we go to other continents back a couple hundred years ago and we decide, yep, we're gonna exist here for resources and that's that. You don't have a say in it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I th- I think it was cool to see like the the technology that they were using and the fact that some of the technology that Bob was using was affecting their technology in a positive way even though it wasn't the way Bob would have liked because it would have like if the things would have broken containment, you know, that would have been bad. Um the being the resource hog is very interesting because like you would want a in my opinion you would want a intelligent race to identify budding intelligent life forms and I think foster them so like and this is that fine line that we were talking about with like with the Deltans, you know, is like how do you promote their growth without affect directly impacting their evolution or their like their technology. I don't know how, but yeah, I I mean it's that or what do you what do you do otherwise? Do you eat the resources around that planet and then you've doomed them? Uh,
Yeah.
because I don't know. It gets into the philosophy, uh, like this philosophy of like, okay, you're gonna leave enough materials for these life forms, right? Let's say they leave like an envelope of materials. How big is that envelope? Like you have to decide how much materials this group of people need and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I uh I thought it was interesting, and I was surprised that there wasn't more found earlier, if that makes sense. Because I'm suspecting that this spacefaring race is very widespread because of the technology that they had. So that's my suspicions, anyways.
Yeah. I did like how Bob took essentially the exact opposite approach of the ant the ant race, the ant people race, which is, oh, there's a system that has resources I want. Well, I'm going to take them. Bob was like, oh, this system is inhabited by an intelligent species. It's off limits. No humans. not even up for discussion. Just nope, go find another place.
Stormreed proposes a pretty interesting question. Do you think he used his resources properly? Um, when he needed to build ships, when he built printers, and how to balance everything, including how many bobs to replicate. Is Bob afraid if he replicates too many bobs, he will lose Bob? That's a
What
pretty
makes
good.
Bob Bob?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Bob is definitely afraid of that. That he doesn't want to make more of himself, probably for that exact reason of he wants him to be him. And in terms of resources, this felt very much like a StarCraft campaign where there's not necessarily one specific way to win, but there's definitely a best way to win and a best way to lose. I took his handling of the situation as he's a StarCraft player
yeah.
that has played before. And he's definitely tainted by his desire to not self-replicate, but he understands the need to prioritize his mission or his point of
Directive.
living.
The
Yeah, his
directive.
his main direct his
Hmm.
major directive, whatever they call it. um he wants to succeed, so he overcomes his desire to not replicate. And he thinks often about what would be the most efficient use of the printers, and should he expend his resources making weapons, should he make use of his resources to make replications of himself so that he can get more done, should he make a million printers and then make all those printers do other things. And I think he was a very lean green machine and used his resources very leanly, and uh, didn't excess in any direction, which I thought was well done.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he was definitely written as a character that took what he needed for the necessity and stored things for later use. So like it mentioned like he would leave space stations behind that were on auto, uh, and they would just collect resources so that future humans had what they needed when they entered the star system. I think I think he yeah I I agree. I think Bob would be most happy in his VR room. I think that the Deltans for him is a way to skirt his responsibilities or his primary directive. I think he used the Deltans as a way to say I can't do more because I have to do this, and so that was really interesting. Um, I did love the concept of the VR rooms, helping him
Yeah,
stay sane and like helping out that poor like sailor that he saves. The is it the Australian replicant that he saves that went crazy? Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
I definitely liked that Bob didn't just take his Zero's interaction as a foregone conclusion that any replicant he finds is going to be someone he has to wipe out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was right in the idea though of like being cautious because though he himself is not a was not a part of the world of like escalations, he understood that those that came from that world are fully like engrossed in that. So
Yeah.
I wonder as like some parting thoughts, like I I just I kind of wonder like the humans going to Romulus and Vulcan, are they going to continue their bullshit? You know what I mean? Like did we just did Bob just save the the surviving worst of humanity? You know, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. So, what are your, I think, parting thoughts on this book?
Yeah. Parting thoughts. I really enjoyed this book. It was a nice, call it a distraction
Hmm.
from the world. It had a lot of interesting concepts in it, and it had a fun little story. And Bob was everywhere with what he was doing with the humans and trying to find a colonization planet and the Deltans. There was a ton of stuff going on. What I didn't like though is it just felt uh, shallow. Like
Yeah.
we're skimming the surface of each story. It didn't go into a ton of detail on any one thing. Kept it very broad. The timeline kept moving very quickly along.
Yep.
It was kind of more. It felt more like a summary of events and less of a story of events.
Yeah.
And while I felt that, I also felt like that's just how this story went. I don't feel it took a ton away from the book, but it was a negative aspect of the book.
Yeah, I think,
So overall,
go ahead.
overall, I liked it. Felt like it was lighthearted and very entertaining.
I think what you're kind of calling out is this book was very foundational. Like, it just laid what needed to be laid. I don't know if he expected to write a ton more books. How many books does he have on this so far? Like three or four?
Four books total.
Okay. And yeah, I don't know. It was very foundational. I did like the book. Like you were saying, it was a fun like diversion. Uh, it was a quick book compared to a lot of the other books that we read. I guess it wasn't. To be fair, if we're talking like the general of sci-fi and fantasy, it was an average book. Uh, but having read a lot of Sanderson in the recent 6 to 8 months, uh, it makes it feel like this book was short, which was it was nice. It was a good book. Um, it had great like ideas and premises. I really wish they would have dug out dug into those premises more. Like Storm Reed said, he liked the humor. I liked the humor as well. The sense of adventure was good. Um, I would have liked to see a little more detail. Whether or not that means slowing down the change in Bob perspective, or something like that. So yeah, it was good. Will I continue to read the series? Probably. Am I jumping to do it right away now? I I enjoyed it. Um but it's not, I've got other books on my docket that I want to get to, and this book just isn't pressing to the point of like, okay, what happened? I'm just going to crush through these books real quick and then I'll get back to my regular like queue of books. So, yeah.
Yeah. For me, these books came at a good time because I had a lot of busy work at work. this last month, so I was like, oh, it's perfect. I'll listen to this and
Smash
I'll
these books in a week.
make, make cables and hit submit on internet things and yeah,
hmm
lots of busy work. And this book is definitely, well, this book series is definitely a good background noise kind of story.
It was like I did find this book was easier for me to do um more thought intensive work than usual. So like I did some I did I don't usually do like puzzles and stuff like that when I'm listening to books because I have to think too much on the puzzle in order to solve it, and so it distracts me from the book too much. But this book was an easy listen to the point of like if I missed a couple of sentences, I wasn't missing big topics. Um, there wasn't a lot of intrigue in this book, so it wasn't like I was going to miss the who done it. It was more of just making sure I hit the highs of the or the story beats properly. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Let's get into wrapping up the show here. Um, let's see.
Oh yeah. How do we do that?
How do we end the show again? Let's see. Future books. So, our next book we will be reading is on we'll be doing the stream April 29th, and it is Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Looking forward to that book. And then the book chosen by the community tonight is going to be read and discussed. We'll be discussing it on May 20th, and that's The Martian by Andy Weir.
Yeah, I've never read Less. I have read The Martian, so
I haven't read The Martian, and I haven't read Less. So
it'll be good then.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I wanna see like personally I wanna see the difference between the book and the movie. Because that book caught on fire. I like I don't think of the book often, but then when I think back to when that book hit, it was just like like this massive flash in a pan, like that's got negative connotations usually, but like that that was a huge like wow, that was a big book, and then the movie came out like really fast, and yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to read it.
Have you have you seen the movie or no?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed the
Okay.
movie. So it was a good movie. So yeah.
Cool. If you guys would like to know more about what we do, you should check out dmstable.com. It's got everything that we talk about, and it's got all the links to the stuff mentioned at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, if you
So
ever
you
forget
should go there.
if you ever forget what book we're reading or what's coming up, right there, dmstable.com/the 800s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Adam, what book are you reading or have you read like in between? What's your side piece?
Well, I read the other three books in the Bobverse. um, book two picks up right after, like the day after book one, so it's feels more like part one, part two on that, which is why I mixed up a couple of what was in what there. Otherwise, shout out to Brando Sando. Started releasing his secret projects starting in January. I know that was a while back, but mine still has not yet arrived,
Uh-oh.
and it's almost time for Secret Project number 2.
Oh no.
But Secret Project 1 from Brando Sando was Tress of the Emerald Sea. I did listen to the audiobook of that.
Was it good?
It was phenomenal. It's a totally different Brando Sando book.
Really?
So yeah, it's definitely a different style of Brandon Sanderson that you don't really see in
Oh.
his other books.
Is it Cosmere?
So it is a Cosmere book.
Whoa, okay. All right. I enjoyed the two prequel books to the Honor Among Thieves D&D movie that's coming out at the end of this month. March 31st, I think is its release date. So yeah, I would suggest those books. They're pretty good. I for the life of me just blanked on what they're called. Um, but yeah, uh, it's like Honor Among Thieves, Neverwinter,
Okay.
uh, the
The
Neverwinter.
Road to
Yeah,
Neverwinter and the Druid's Call.
yeah, they're both pretty good. They're different types of books between the two, and I think they lay really good foundation, which helps. I think it's gonna help my nerd rage around like the druid turning into an owl bear. So so yeah, it sets a really good foundation, and I enjoyed those books. I would highly recommend them. Um,
Did you check out the stat blocks that were released for the
no,
characters?
no. So my Sunday DM, um, he was like, "Hey, the stat blocks are out. If you don't want spoilers, do not read those stat blocks." Because I had moved once I found out that there was prequel books to the movie. I told like everybody I knew. I was like, you guys, there's prequels. That it might be important. Um, I'm a little worried that the prequel books are out, so I'm worried that the movie will be kind of shallow, but it's getting really good reviews, so I'm excited.
Well, I'm probably gonna go. Well, I am going to go see it 1 week from now. Got the
I
tickets, so
I don't know if I will. We'll see. I plans got made.
here
Plans got made
after
and
that.
didn't realize the date. So, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
after that, I'll probably check out the books. So
Oh, yeah.
kind of had to decide if I want to do books before or after the movie, and I decided on after.
Okay. Yeah, that's
'Cause
fair. I think
usually, in my opinion, usually books are better, and I
yeah.
didn't want it to go with the
Well,
movie.
the nice part is the books are I think thoroughly far enough away in terms of time that like time has passed. It's not like both books end bookended into the movie, and from the writing style of the first book, Road to Neverwinter, you get the sense that the book was written with the actors in mind. So the characters feel very much like the portrayals that I've seen in the trailers. So, anyways,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. So those were my side pieces. I'm working on Mistborn now. I'm almost done with the first age. So I'm in book
The first page.
no first age. So the
Oh,
yeah
okay.
uh uh
Start slow.
yeah yeah what is that the hero of ages I think the first age ends after the third book, right?
Yep.
Yep. So okay, so
And
I'm working on that now.
Storm votes anything John Grissom.
Ooh, John Grissom. Okay, I'm gonna put that in my I need to look at list. All right. Well, thanks for the conversation today, guys. Thanks for joining us, Storm, and everybody who joined in to watch and didn't necessarily participate. We really appreciate you guys, regardless of if you participate or not. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was a good chat tonight. It's fun conversing with you, Storm, as always. And thank you, everybody else who watched but remained silent.
Yeah. All right. See you all next book. Bye.
See ya.